Let's talk about the art of leaving the date early, because y'all are not leaving the date when you're disrespected enough for me. And I know that because I've heard the stories of you staying after you're disrespected. And I would like to tell you about the handful of times that I've left a date early, probably like less than 4, I think 3 or 4. But one did happen the other day. Now, I had been out with this guy before. Actually, the funny story is like me and my friend were trying to do this double date situation. I had matched with this guy and I told him to bring a friend, but then his friend was like obviously more attractive and more my type, and we were obviously connecting more. Then so eventually his friend like kind of sneakily asked me for my number like away from his friend because we went out, and my friend didn't like anybody, so she was fine. And you know, I was more attracted to the friend. Anyways, so we end up going on a date after, and that date was okay. Like, he took me out to a restaurant. He was French and it was fine. I wasn't like mentally stimulated that much, honestly. And I realized like maybe it was just night and the fact that we were out and we were drinking and he was dressed better before. We went to an Italian restaurant. The date was fine. He was just like not that interesting to me. I feel like he was on his phone a lot, and that's actually how we felt about both of them the first time that we met them. Anyway, so it was a fine date, but I wasn't like obsessed with him. But then last weekend, he asked me to hang out like after I was already out. So it was like, okay, sure, why not? Like, I could just meet you here kind of thing. And, you know, he asked me to try like a couple different bars like on the strip. And we were trying and we were going to different ones, and then we would find out it has cover, and he's like, okay, let's go to a different one. You know? And then so we finally get into one because he's like, oh yeah, my friend knows the owner, so like we won't have to pay or wait in line. And he like gets us a drink, and it was cheap bar rail, to be honest, like 2 drinks for $22. Okay. So we're dancing and whatever. And he's also like dancing like kind of aggressively, in the sense of like he's trying to really be kind of grindy, you know what I mean? Which is like, it's okay. But then at a certain point, I was like, can we get another drink? And he was like, you can get another drink. And I was like, what? But this was also, again, I said he's French, and I think him and his friend, so I've discovered that I think French men are actually really cheap. And apparently that's a thing. And apparently, like, people from Quebec will even tell you that. Not just parents France, but also Quebec, apparently. I don't know. I think they, like, split the bill in France for guys. So then when they come here, they're very confused about, like, etiquette. And he was very, like, pissy about gentleman expectations. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, well, why did you invite me out just to, like, grind on me really aggressively and then be like, go get a drink by yourself? And he was like, well, what about my standards? Because I had said, I don't know if this is like meeting my standard right now for like a date. I thought this was a date. And he was like, it is a date. What about my standards? And the way he said it was just rude. And I was like, okay. And I walked out. And the thing is, my legs start to move before my head can keep up as a dancer. And that's why that happens to me. And I've let my legs take me away from a date a couple times, because sometimes when you're feeling disrespected in your gut, it wasn't just like the fact that he didn't want to pay for like an $8 drink after inviting me out and then like grinding, dancing on me pretty aggressively. The expectation, also he's like iced out, and I'm like, you need to not be iced out and then be like so cheap. It's just like annoying. And if that's a French thing, okay, I don't care. It's jarring. It's jarring for you to have icy and then be like, you can get your own drink. It was like an $8 drink. And it's like, obviously I go out with my friends all the time. Like I be racking up a tab by the end of a night. Okay. Like, I pay for my own stuff when I'm out with my girls, but like you should not be out with like a man who's in his 30s, asked you out, iced out, trying to act like he's like whatever, but won't show up for it. You can't do that. I just find it like tacky or like yucky. I don't know. So that was the most recent time I left a date. Have I also left dates with people that I've been seeing for a long time and then they piss me off in that moment? Yeah. And that was probably the last time before that I did, was this guy that I was seeing for a long time. But he was like trying to pretend like we were going to be boyfriend and girlfriend. And then he was like, we were in the Uber. And he was telling the Uber like, oh, this is my girlfriend. And then at the restaurant, I was like, so you told the Uber, like, I'm your girlfriend, what's up with that? And he was like, yeah, I know it's not official, but like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, there's no like official or unofficial. Like, we either are and we aren't. And you're saying that you're not ready for that Because he started being like, I don't know if I'm financially ready, but he was the one that brought this up, and he said he was going to ask me to be his girlfriend in the new year. This was Valentine's Day by this point. And I was like, okay, so you're just like stringing me along for fun, but you also are trying to keep me off the market because you know that like I will move on. And so I started getting really upset and really pissed and like crying. And I just left. And he was like, no, don't leave. And I was like, I need to go. So it was another time I left. I've also left because I went on a date with this guy, and he was saying that he had like, on the date, they never tell you anything before the date. On the date, he was saying that he had a girlfriend in San Diego, but the more he was but it was open, and the more he was describing it, I was like, you don't even know this girl. He said I think they'd met like one time. This was years ago. This was like a couple years, I was probably like 22 at the time. And it was so weird to me because he kept talking about this girl, and I was like, like you don't need to be doing this pen pal stuff. Like you can meet a girl here in real life who you can actually see, right? Like you're not like of the ilk to need to be doing. I was trying to tell him like you're attractive enough that you don't need to have like a pen pal girlfriend in San Diego. And he was like, no, but blah, blah, blah. Like he was just being really annoying and like, just like really weird, nerdy. Like if you want to act like an incel, you are free to do that. I was trying to tell him like, you can just date in real life. You don't need to like have this girl that you don't know as your girlfriend who's like holding you back from real life. And at a certain point, I think I said like, you don't need to be like pen paling bitches and wherever. And he was like, whoa, she's not a bitch. And I was like so pissed off because obviously, I wasn't calling her a bitch. I'm just like, I say bitches do this, bitches do that. It's not like in a way where I don't know this person. You don't know this person. You know what I mean? So I was so pissed off that he had the nerve to be condescending to this real life date in front of his face about his fucking pen pal pretend girlfriend. That he doesn't want to be categorized with the colloquial term bitches. And I was like, okay. And I left. Very funny though. I left that building, and I remember walking into this guy who I remember he was like looking at me before. Like I can always tell when guys are like into me most of the time. And I was like, hey, you come here kind of thing. Like we need to go for a walk. So I was trying to like hide from the guy because he started to follow me. Like I knew he was going to like come out and be like, where, And so I was like trying to go around the block and like hide with him and be like, hey, come with me. So I'm not like walking in the like dark alone on the street. And he was so up for it. He was like, okay. And so we start walking, and I was like, I just left a date. Like, I just walked out on a date. Like, I need to, like, just go right now. I just need you to come with me. And it was very funny. We end up talking, and then we end up going on this date for a bit. By that, I mean, like, we're walking around. We got a pizza. Me and this random guy that I just bumped into because I left this date. Funny enough, went on a couple dates with that guy. Ends up being a flat earther. Yeah, that's not a joke. Because I asked him at one point on our date, like, do you have any controversial opinions? And he said, well, I'm not sure that the earth is round. I think it might be flat. And we went into a conversation that I didn't know how to enter because you don't really know. These people are prepared. These people who believe in this, they're prepared for those answers. Yeah, so that didn't work out, but it did save me from that date. Another time I've walked out on a date. There was this guy, we went to frickin' Petty Cash. I don't love Petty Cash. It's very fratty. And that day it was really extra fratty. And I remember we had got there and he had not got me anything. He had gotten himself a beer, and I go in, and I was not late. It wasn't like, oh, he got himself not that you can't order a beer, but like I got there and then he didn't order me a drink. And I was like, oh, like, are we gonna drink? And he was like, well, here. Offers me, I just met this guy for the first time. Offers me like his half-finished beer to sip from. I was so disgusted in that moment. I was surrounded by frat bros, and this guy that I thought he was attractive, but his personality was fleas. And I just remember, like, we were not there for very long, and he started to make me really uncomfortable. And I don't even remember what was said, but I remember being so upset. Like, actually so just annoyed at the way he was talking to me and the fact that he had just, like, offered me this half beer. I can't even remember right now if we ended up, I think we walked outside, and just the way he was talking to me, like, I was like, I actually can't do this. Like, it was giving me anxiety. And I don't even remember what was said. I just think he didn't make any sense to me. And like, the social cues were off. And I felt like berated in a weird way. And I couldn't tell you what he said, but I remember I started walking. I just started walking. He starts following me. And then he's like shouting at me down blocks. Like blocks. And I'm like, please stop following me. And I start to have like speed up. And this is why you have to know when to leave the date. Because why am I leaving this date and you're running around chasing me through the King Street? Like, are you serious? It was so weird. It was kind of scary. I think I've left maybe one more date. And I think the reason was because, you know when guys are like, I don't really know what I'm doing here? Like, they talk to you in a way where they're like, yeah, I don't really do this, and I don't really date it. I'm not really sure what you're expecting. Like, it's your fault that they're here. It was one of those where they're trying to play it like, yeah, I don't really know what the standard is. I just kind of came. And you're like, well, he's just being very neggy and condescending and rude, and I felt disrespectful of my time and very much like this was some weird experiment for him. And I felt like my time was being wasted. So we went to the bathroom and I left. They sometimes feel disrespected when you do that. Because normally I do it when they're there, in their face. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you gotta sneak. That's probably the only time I've really snuck. So I was just like, what am I really doing here? What am I really doing here? You know what I mean? I think I'm missing one. Oh, yeah. Okay, one time. No, yeah, I am missing one. One time there was this guy, and I remember I came back from the bathroom, and he was on Hinge. He was on Hinge, and I was like, why are you on Hinge? I actually gave him a couple minutes to put it away. Not a couple minutes, but I gave him a couple seconds to put the phone back in his pocket because I was like, oh, okay, like maybe he doesn't realize I'm here. But there was like a solid 3 to 5 seconds where I was sitting in front of him that he was still on his phone. And I was like, okay. And then I said something about it. I was going to let him have it. But then I said something about it and he was like, oh no, it's actually this friend that I connected with on Hinge that I used to know. And so we're just catching up. I was like, you don't think that's rude to like be texting on Hinge on a first date? He's like, no, don't think of it like that. Think of it like WhatsApp. Like I'm talking to a friend on WhatsApp. Men think you're stupid, you know? They think you're really stupid. And I was like, you would think it's rude if you came back from the bathroom and you sat down and somebody was still texting somebody on a dating app. He was trying to like gaslight me like he didn't understand what that meant. And eventually, like it was again in the response to this thing that made me be like, I need to leave. So I got up and left. And then he texted me and called me, please come back. I understand it's a bigger deal than I made it to be. Yeah, go fuck yourself. Seriously. Go F yourself. I think they don't understand that sometimes jeopardizing me feeling respected will have consequences. And that's how I felt with the French guy being like, well, what about my standard? Okay, your standards are you can now stand here alone after aggressively trying to like, and then being like, you can get your own drink. Well, the consequences of that are you are now going to stand here alone. And people are going to know that you're here alone now. Actions have consequences. Disrespect has consequences. So I hope that can be a little bit of inspiration for you if you're dating and you feel disrespected. Just walk out. Leave. Make an exit if you must. But give yourself the permission to remove yourself from spaces where men think it's okay to respect you, okay? And yeah, that's my story time. Hope you enjoyed.